Bridge decks come in many different sizes. Some of them are thin and held up with additional stay cables, while others are large and boxy. But in the early 1900s, a breakthrough in structural analysis led to bridge structures getting both thinner and longer. The theory responsible for this is deflection theory, and in this video we're going to explore what makes this theory so revolutionary and why it changed bridge design forever. Hi, my name is Matt, and if you're new to this channel, I make videos about structural engineering, and today I'm going to be talking about deflection theory, which is a theory in structural analysis that totally revolutionized suspension bridge design in the early 1900s. I've been researching deflection theory while working on a larger video about the Brooklyn Bridge, and every time I find a research paper on this, it's just filled with a lot of math equations and a lot of dense derivations that are kind of hard to wrap your head around. So I wanted to try and illustrate this using simple statics so it's a little bit more visual. And to aid with this, I also developed a small string model that demonstrates the relationship between tension and stiffness. So I'm going to start with that before I get into more of the statics, and then hopefully I don't lose you guys along the way. I'm going to start off with just a simple string held between 2 points. Currently, the string is only holding up its own self-weight, so there's not actually a lot of tension moving through the string. Now, let's see what happens when I apply a single load somewhere to the right of the string. So we see the entire system skew over to where the load was applied, and now the string has deformed pretty much into two straight lines, extending from the point load to each of the supports, and it's no longer the smooth catenary arc that we had before. So now I'm going to apply an evenly distributed load across the length of the string so that we do build up a considerable amount of tension. With this new stress state, let's see what happens when I apply the same point load that I applied before. We can see pretty much no change, and that the shape of the string is roughly in the same arc that we had before. Or since this is an evenly distributed load, the shape of the string is no longer a catenary arc and is now a parabola. If I superimpose the shapes of these two systems on top of each other, we can see what a dramatic difference it made having tension run through the string before the load was applied. So this sets up the relationship that having more tension running through your string means that you have more stiffness in its original shape when you have outside loads applied. But what does this mean if we have a bridge deck involved? To test this out, I added a bridge deck and suspended it from the string with some hangers. Now, in reality, bridge decks are not made of a flexible element. They're usually quite rigid, but this still works in this analogy because wherever we see our deck string deflecting down the most indicates where our bridge deck is going to need more stiffness in the design, and hence probably a larger truss. So now let's see what happens when we add our point load to this system. The overall system generally skews towards the point load as we had before. The suspension line is a little bit more curved because it's also supporting that deck string, but it's still pretty localized around that point of load application. Looking at the deck, it deflects down pretty heavily right around the point load, so this indicates that the deck is going to have to be designed to be stiff enough to take into account this differential deflection, as well as the bending that's going to be induced into it by the application of this load. So now let's repeat this experiment, but this time I'm going to make the deck heavier. To signify this, I put a load at every single hanger to signify the weight of the deck acting on the suspension line. As we said before, this is going to put a tension in the suspension line itself, and when I add this point load, it's going to add a significant amount of rigidity to the overall bridge. The parabola shape of the suspension line is retained, and the overall shape of the deck is much less disturbed with the additional dead load of the deck turned on. Once again, we're going to superimpose the two shapes on top of each other, but to compare what's actually happening at the deck, I'm going to take the original shape and shift it down to align the edges of the deck. This way we can see the original shape has a much larger differential deflection in the string, as opposed to the new shape where the entire dead load is applied. This actually gets to what deflection theory is all about, because deflection theory says the larger dead load tension you have running in your suspension line means the less stiff your deck truss actually has to be. And as we saw in these experiments, having no dead load turned on for the deck results in a pretty large differential deflection, while having that dead load turned on reduces that deflection significantly. Now to keep going for just one more iteration of this experiment, I'm going to apply the point load in between two hangers. This is because the hangers are naturally going to be more rigid points along the deck, so I want to see what happens if the load is applied in between these points. As expected, the deck deflects down a lot, especially in between the two hangers, though the shape of the suspension line itself is roughly undisturbed. So now let's see what happens again when we reintroduce our dead load and add a lot more tension into that suspension line. As we can see, the deck still deflects down pretty dramatically in between the two hangers. This is because no matter what tension you have running through your suspension line, the deck is ultimately responsible for taking that load and transmitting it to the hangers. So even if you have a stiffer deck, it still has to transmit that force to either hanger next to it. What's interesting, however, and I'm going to align the decks again like I did last time so you can really see that differential movement inside the deck. What's interesting is that the system without the dead load applied still has a much larger differential deflection than the one that does have the dead load turned on. And the clue to what's going on lies within the position of the hangers, where in our unweighted system we can see that all the hangers are skewing slightly towards the point load, while the ones in the weighted system are roughly vertical. What's going on here is the tension running through the suspension line under the dead load system gives the position of the hangers a lot more rigidity, so when the deck is hanging from the hangers are less likely to move around, unlike the unweighted system where the hangers are a little bit more flexible, which gives the deck a little bit more flexibility when it's loaded up, which means it'll take on just a little bit more bending, as we can see in these two different shapes. Now it's time to get into some of the math to actually define what deflection theory is saying and what this looks like on a basic suspension bridge model. So I sketched out a quick little visual here. I drew in the bridge deck at the bottom. It's being held up by rigid hangers connecting to a suspension line which holds it all up in place. On the bottom deck, I have deck edge supports which are only vertical, and at the edges of the suspension line, there's the reaction force there, which has both vertical and horizontal components. And then of course, I drew in a basic uniformly distributed load W acting upon the bridge deck. Then to see what's going on with the internal forces inside the bridge deck, I'm going to cut the bridge in half so that we can see how the internal forces of the bridge deck and the suspension line balance with the external loading and the support forces. To relate all of these forces together, I'm going to take the left-hand side of the bridge and do a moment balance about the lower left-hand corner. If you don't have a background in civil engineering, essentially what a moment is it's a force acting at a distance. And when I'm balancing out all the moments, I take all the forces, multiply them by their distances, see which way it's rotating, and assign the signs as accurate, and then make sure this all sums to 0 to basically say this structure is not rotating left or right. Any force and distance combination that makes the bridge rotate counterclockwise is going to be positive, and anything that makes the bridge rotate clockwise is going to be negative, and it's rotating about that point in the lower left-hand corner. So now we can clean things up a little bit. I'm going to look at that first term, that shear times L over 2 plus WL squared over 8. This looks all very similar to our derived moment equation with respect to the shear and the loading of just a simply supported beam. So I'm going to just call that MB to simplify it down. That's essentially just the moment based on the shear in the deck. And then that second term, since they're both H, we can combine H1 and H2. And we see that we can subtract out this horizontal component in the suspension line. We can multiply this by the y-ordinate, as it's called. And the y-ordinate is essentially the distance from the top of the suspension line to its lowest point. So another pattern we get in suspension bridges is the larger this distance between the top and the bottom of the suspension line, or the steeper the cable, the less moment we have building up in the deck. This isn't deflection theory, but this is just a little observation. What this equation is it's elastic theory. This is what was used before the 1900s, before deflection theory came along, to estimate the forces that are actually going in the bridge deck. So this is what the Brooklyn Bridge likely used, this is what the Williamsburg Bridge used, and you can see how the design changes once we introduce the idea of deflections and nonlinear effects, which I'll get into now. The first step in deflection theory is that we have to assume that our bridge deflects a little bit. Because we have rigid hangers, we're going to assume that the suspension line and the bridge deck deflect together, and I'm going to denote this with the variable eta. When I make the same cut and apply our elastic theory equation to the deflected system, we'll see that the deflection eta adds to the y-ordinate, essentially increasing the steepness of the cable. This means that there's an additional savings we can get on the bending moment because of considering this deflection. But that's not even the full story, because we have to consider both the dead load condition and the live load condition. And the dead load condition is treated different than any other load case that's happening on the bridge. In the dead load condition, we basically adjust the tension running through the suspension line so it holds up the entire deck without any internal moment or deflection happening. This means that it's constructed carefully and the geometry is controlled such that the deck under the dead load weight only has to push the weight to the hangers, and then the suspension line will be perfectly adjusted to actually carry it up without inducing any bending. This is different than the live load condition, which could be asymmetrical, it could be larger, it could be different. Who knows what's happening, but that will actually induce a moment in the bridge deck. And essentially, when you're building these bridge decks and these trusses, you assume that the suspension line will take all of the dead weight, and then the actual bridge deck will have to take some of the bending due to live load. So essentially, the total moment acting in the bridge deck is going to be the dead load moment plus the live load moment, but the dead load moment is going to be roughly 0 depending on how the bridge is designed. This is what I was trying to illustrate back with one of my string models, where we have the bridge deck, all of the weight is perfectly applied at the beginning state, and then the moment we have to design for is when I add in the additional point load, and then you'll see the bridge deck deflect a little bit. And as we saw in this string model, the dead load tension that was running through the suspension line mattered a lot for the actual flexibility of the deck and the total moment that was going into the deck. So let's continue with the statics and see what's going on here. So if we now apply the deflection to our suspension bridge, on the right we're going to apply our elastic theory, where we're able to subtract out that horizontal force in the suspension line multiplied by eta the deflection. But we also have to consider that even though we don't have any moment built up in the dead load condition, we do have a force built up in the suspension line. So now that that suspension line is also deflecting down some value eta, we also have to subtract out that dead load force. And because the design moment in the bridge deck is a combination of the dead load and the live load moment, we also get to subtract out that hd times eta value in addition to the h times eta value. And so this brings us to our deflection theory equation, where we take our elastic theory equation, we subtract out h times eta, and then we also subtract out hd times theta. And it's this equation that sets up the relationship where the size of the truss, which is dependent on the bending moment in the deck, can be decreased if the weight of the deck is increased because we have that HD increasing, which then that means the longer bridge deck we have, the heavier bridge deck we have, which means the smaller truss we'll need actually on the deck. And this is where modern suspension bridge design really took off in the early 1900s. We can see here, this is the Williamsburg Bridge deck, which was designed with elastic theory, immediately followed up a few years later with the design of the Manhattan Bridge, which has a much more slender deck. This was followed up a few years later with the George Washington Bridge, which has almost no truss or actual stiffening to the deck at all. The application of deflection theory unlocked spans all across the world up until 1940 with the collapse of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, where wind aerodynamics was the next hurdle that would change bridge design forever. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe and comment to let me know. I'm still relatively new to YouTube, so I'm still figuring out how to make content quick enough, but also at a high enough quality that befits the platform. So if you have any feedback at all, make sure to let me know down in the comments or message me on one of my other platforms. I really appreciate it. As I said in the beginning of the video, I'm also working on a larger video about the Brooklyn Bridge, which I'll hopefully finish up in the next few weeks. And in addition to that, I also have a video about the I-395 project going up in Miami. It's just been a lot to edit and make all the sketches, so I'm still trying to figure out a workflow so I can get through this a little bit quicker, because this is also all in my free time outside of work, so, you know, with work deadlines it gets a little crazy. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.